William Eggleston is one of the most influential and original photographers alive today.
You been behaving yourself?
He's an unlikely hero of the contemporary art world, a nonconformist Southern aristocrat who is also a true American pioneer. 40 years ago, he dragged colour, kicking and screaming, into the world of art photography. "70 years old and still as rebellious as ever, Eggleston's unique vision shows no sign of letting up.
I know quite a few people are quite afraid of him. If he doesn't like you, he can just kill you off in a minute.
That's one of the stupidest questions I've ever been asked.
Now, with a stunning retrospective touring the globe and a generation of young photographers clambering over each other to claim him as an influence, Eggleston is at last ready to talk about his work. For many years, he was frustratingly elusive, but just over a year ago, Eggleston allowed director Rainer Holzheimer to come and observe him at work in Memphis, actually taking photographs on the road. That footage forms the backbone to tonight's Imagine and gets us closer to this remarkable figure than ever before. William Eggleston was born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1939 and still lives and works there today. He's on a photographic excursion with his son, Winston. In a career spanning almost 50 years, Eggleston has shot thousands of photographs here, in and around his hometown. His subject matter is the banal and everyday.
Think we have any masterpieces yet? Often, people ask what I'm photographing. It's a hard question to answer. And the best I've come up with is I just say, life today. I don't know whether they believe me or not. Or what that means. I don't know what to say about that, but it's today.
Eggleston hardly ever gives titles to his photographs.
I don't particularly even like to identify where or the date. I don't. That's just not about photography. I do have a personal discipline. I've only taken one picture of one thing, not two. I would take more than one, get so confused later when I was trying to figure out which was the best frame. I said, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to take one. That's going to be.
Eggleston got his first camera at the age of 18. He started off in black and white, printing the pictures himself.
I didn't know anything about photography. Relied on reading things like literature from Kodak, or some company like that. There wasn't much of that around either. To sort of teach myself.
Even in the early black and white photos, he chose subjects similar to those he would later shoot in color. They're everyday, unspectacular moments, shot without any photojournalistic ambitions.
My friend, who also was interested in photographing, at one time he bought many books containing photojournalism. Pictures, to me, they were not interesting. But then I found this one. I said, my God, this is not just photojournalism, this is great art. Compositions, obvious knowledge of painting. A lot of Degas in here, the great painters, and the way of composing. And they're still great.
The great influence was Cartier-Bresson. There's such extraordinary structure. And what seems so fleeting, this famous decisive moment, but when you break down the frame has its inherent geometry. And it's fluid. And I think that's what Eggleston aspired to. I love Eggleston's black and white photographs.
The composition appears so intuitive, so natural. You know, it's not forced upon us at all. It appears the simplest thing, but of course when you analyze it, it becomes actually quite sophisticated, and the messages that these pictures can release to us are quite complex and fascinating, and that, of course, is the hallmark of a very good Eggleston.
One thing that I will never forget that really stuck in my mind that Bill did say to me earlier on, when he was talking to me about photography, he says, now you must not take anything for granted when you're looking at a picture. Never do that. Every single little tiny space on that page works and counts.
It seemed so almost cack-handed, because there'd be things missing maybe where you expected to see maybe a complete figure or a complete component or a subject. It might be split or cut off, or there'd be weird things maybe sometimes happening around the edge of the picture, which turn out to be incredibly important in terms of understanding Eggleston's aesthetic.
William Eggleston's work is rooted in his origins. He comes from a well-to-do family, but owns several cotton plantations in Tallahatchie County in Mississippi. Bill Jr. grew up in Sumner, in his grandparents' house, where his cousin lives today.
Bill was the first grandchild, and my grandfather went absolutely just crazy over this child, from what I've heard, because he was a child and a new victim, and he was also a boy, and he had never had sons, so I think he just pretty much commandeered Bill from the get-go. So my grandparents, I don't say they kidnapped him, but they had a lot to do with his upbringing here, and they had lots of servants here, and it was just a great household from what I understand.
Agriculture has always been the greatest single activity of the southeastern people. Nearly half of them are directly dependent upon the soil, with greatest proportions in Mississippi and Arkansas.
An unusual youth, described by his mother as brilliant and strange, Eggleston amused himself by playing the piano, building electronic gadgets, and even bugging his own family with hidden microphones. Never academically inclined, he nonetheless spent 6 years at various universities, studying art, but without ever graduating. Meanwhile, around him, America was changing. The car was reshaping society. Suburbs, shopping malls, and drive-ins were sprouting like a fungus across the South.
Bill at one time said to his great, highly respected friend, "Well, what am I going to photograph? Everything around here is so ugly." And our friend said, "Photograph the ugly stuff." We are surrounded everywhere with this plethora of shopping centers and ugly stuff. And so that is really initially what he started photographing.
We all sort of thought alike in this way, that none of us was interested in what back then, it was a long time ago, was considered art photography, which was very large negative landscapes, people like Ansel Adams, Everett Weston.
In the mid-1960s, Eggleston changed the course not only of his career, but of photography. He shot his first roll of colour film.
Let's go back to the 60s. A lot of it to Las Vegas, actually. And that's the way people looked back then.
His colour is just sort of the colour of nothing, if you like. It's just ordinary life. And it's funny that, originally he started in black and white, he moved to colour. And I guess for him it wasn't an issue. But, in the time, you have to understand, if you're a serious photographer, you had to be working in black and white. So when he came along and did this sort of nothingness colour, it wasn't decorative, it was just ordinary life. It was quite radical because it was just so underplayed. And it took us a long time to understand and appreciate that.